Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Dina Julianti and my NPM 20020100795 and I'm student naik regular Banjarmasin, and here I want to explain about the material is English and Intercultural Communication subject by Mr. and Arbain MPD. Okay, let's start the material. Language and culture for review. Language means of communication, primary vehicle of communication. Through language, we establish and maintain the relationship. We transmit our culture. We categorize the world. We interpret and organize the reality. Language separates us from other species of animals. The single human trait makes us unique from animals. We cannot be human without a language. Three functions of language. The first is cultural perspective. It is primary means of preserving the culture and medium of transmitting the culture of the new generation. The second is it helps establish and preserve community by linking individuals into communities of shared identity. And third, societal level. It is important to all aspects of human interaction because it often related to the political goals. Culture shared by community, distinguished by other communities, learned by other people. Different communities have some common or different characteristics. It in culture will mostly include eminent characteristics that exist or are in others. Relationship between language and culture. Structure of language determines the way the language that a speaker of that language view the language of word. Culture is reflected in language. Culture requirements don't determine structure of language but influence how it used. Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. Two American linguists, Edward Sapir and Benjamin Whorf. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. 2029. Human beings don't live in the society alone. Language of the society predisposes certain choice of interpretation about how we view the world. Work, 1930. We this signature along lines laid down by our native language. The categories object in the scheme laid by the language, and if we don't subscribe to this classification, we cannot talk or communicate. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis consists of two associate principles. The first is language determinism, and the second, linguistic relativity, language determinism. Language may determine our thinking patterns, the way we view and think about the world. Linguistic determinism is also called strong determinism. One of well-known examples Whorf used to support his theory was the number of words the Eskimo language has for snow. For example, apun, snow on the ground, kanika, hard snow on the ground, etc. Arabic has many words for different kinds of camels. In Chinese, there is only one dam, low to, and in English, there is camel. Linguistic relativity. The less similar the language more differs their conceptualization of the world. Different language view the world differently. Linguistic relatively. Speaker of different language perceive the world differently. Language influence thinking. Linguistic difference between cultures are associated with cultural difference in thinking. Viewpoints vary from language to language. The structure doesn't determine the view, but is still extremely influential in predisposing speakers of a language toward adopting a particular worldview. Different language represent different ways of thinking about the world around us. The Whorfian's perspective. The Whorfian's perspective is the translation between one language and another. Is at the very least problematic and sometimes impossible. One such example is of the Punjabi word jut, relationship between language and thought. There is closest relationship between language and thought. Language may not determine the way we think, but it does influence the way we perceive and remember, and it affects the ease with which we perform mental tasks. Effect of culture on language. Culture influences language acquisition from the very early stage to the entire developmental process. Culture influences all aspects of language. It is through use of language that an individual and transform into agent of culture. Culture has a powerful influence on verbal and nonverbal encoding and decoding processes. Culture affects not only language lexicons, but also the function and or pragmatics. Change in society may produce corresponding linguistic change. Language different across culture and lexicons. Some other reference in US, the use of I, we is prevalent, but in Japan there are cultural rules governing how to refer self and other. It is dependent largely on the status relationship between you and the other person. This reflects importance of status and group differentiation in Japan. In Japan, high and low context culture. This has to do with the extent to which the specific contents of message are spelled out. In low context culture, everything is made crystal clear. No need to read between the lines. What part of no don't you understand? Mode of communicating. The opposite is true for high context cultures. If you don't read between the lines and understand the cultural context of the word used, you won't get the meaning of what was said. Okay, that's all the material. I'm sorry if I have a mistake. Thank you for your kind attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.